Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the High Ticket Coaching and Consultant Strategy and Growth Show. Now, if you're watching this interview anywhere else but within our private Facebook community called High Ticket Client Attraction Insider Circle, definitely come check us out. We'd definitely love to have you. And that community was put together specifically for coaches, consultants, and service providers who are serious about getting up to that 6 and that 7-figure level. So if that's you, definitely come check us out. Now, today I want to introduce you to another one of the members of our community, Nikolay. Welcome, Nikolay.
Thank you for having me here, Estes.
Awesome. Now, did I say it right? Is it Nikolay or Nikolay?
Nikolay.
Nikolay? Yeah. Got it right. Okay, good, man. So, Nikolay, tell myself and the rest of the community members, what is it that you do?
Well, I'm a meditation and personal development coach, and I help people uncover the true potential, overcome traumas, and achieve their goals in record time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good stuff, good stuff. And I guess, what's your backstory? So before you got started doing this type of work, what did you do?
What did I do before that? Trying not to kill myself, basically.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, I've had years and years and years of suicidal thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And technically what I'm doing right now in teaching people, it just ends up being the only thing that ever worked for me. And not only was it the only thing that ever worked for me, it turns out it's actually the fastest way to start changing your mind and make the most of your goals and start applying things like law of attraction, meditation, spirituality, things that normally you would read in a spiritual book. But I actually checked out all the science because I'm a physicist by degree. I have a bachelor's in applied physics. And I actually checked out almost all the science that could potentially prove what Eastern traditions talk about. Well, guys, yeah, more or less, it all checks out. So, Eastern mystics said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, look inside. Man, they were right.
Okay, good stuff, good stuff. So what, in terms of getting to a point where you're now helping others, what kind of pushed you on a journey to now helping others?
Well, I was just trying to overcome my own problems because, when you have that so much mental problems, it kind of, gives you a lot to work on. But when you actually overcome something, I'm sure you and everyone else in the community is very familiar with the fact that when you actually overcome something, the first thing you want to do is you want to share that experience with other people.
Right.
And honestly, I've noticed that that's a very natural way of how things happen. I don't want to go deep into details, but that's kind of how things go. At first we think about ourselves and our own survival. Let's say poverty or mental health issues or health, whatever. But once you overcome them, now you start to literally open up your heart and you realize, wait a minute, I can actually give some of this to other people. And that is usually how most people create their businesses. Because they overcome something, they have an idea that they want to share with the world. And other coaches.
Yeah. And that's so beautiful as well, too, because it's one of those places where when you have the challenge, when you're going through it yourself, it's like, it feels like this mountain, this huge thing that's like, man, how do you even dig yourself, or how do you pull yourself out of this thing? But when you do figure it out, you start looking back and realize, like, goodness, there's so many individuals out there who are struggling with this, who still have this issue that you figured out. So it's just only natural that you just share it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome, good stuff. So tell us, how do you help your individuals? How do you help the clients that you work with?
Well, I have put my clients through a 5-week program that I have affectionately labeled Quantum Mind Mastery. Quantum because it's now a buzzword, but honestly, 99% of people who use it have never really studied quantum physics, and they don't really understand how it goes. And essentially that program holds a little bit of everything that is actually necessary to truly master your mind. Buddhist monks came up with 6 main pillars of how to actually master your mind: thoughts, feelings, and emotions, breath, nutrition, and movement. So thoughts, feelings, and emotions, you can more or less handle those with meditation, which is the focus of my program, where I want to get people to the point where you can actually use your mind to now start making measurable changes in your life. But you also have to realize that 95% of our thoughts, our subconscious mind, is actually just based on how am I feeling in the present moment. So if you change how you feel by moving, exercising, eating right, taking a cold shower, sleeping, changing your breath, now you're instantly changing your mind. You're instantly changing the thoughts that go through your mind. And that is not Obviously, that's not the long-term solution to the point where, oh yeah, I can just go exercise and now all my problems will be fixed. But once you have the stable base of a body that's actually working for you, now you can actually start using the mind. So what I like to say is body over mind, or should I say matter over mind before mind over matter. And I'm very big on mind over matter because I love the whole concept of changing things just with our minds, but we gotta start with handling the body and the material aspects. Because when you have that in check, now you can start making the most of your mental efforts.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. And you said the Buddhist monk, what were those 6 steps again?
The 6 things are thoughts, feelings, and emotions, breath, nutrition, and exercise. They call it movement. So yeah, breath, nutrition, and movement are obvious. Thoughts are obvious. Emotions are obvious. Feelings are supposedly when you actually link an emotion with a thought. So let's call it just sensation, not just the emotion of anger, but kind of when they are linked together. Mm-hmm. So essentially, what I do is I focus more on the 3, thoughts, feelings, and emotions, which is the actual mental part, the meditation part. Obviously we have to make sure that the body is stable enough to facilitate that, because if your hardware is not good enough, you can't install the best program. So you need to take care of your hardware first. But once that's in check, now what can you install? And the biggest problem that I've seen in the whole personal development industry, because before I started the actual coaching business, I used to be deep in personal development because I needed to handle my own problems. So what I noticed in the whole thing is there's way too little focus on teaching people how to create powerful emotional experiences. Everyone says it's all in your head, it's all mindset, it's all, it's all thoughts, you gotta change how you think. That's great and everything, but if 95% of your thoughts are plain and simply how you're feeling in the present moment, why are we not working on that? Why are we not working on that? And actually, talking about high-ticket clothing, I was just talking to a recent client of mine. He's a life insurance agent, so closing is basically what he does. He's almost a senior now. He's 65, and all his life he's been reading this kind of stuff. Neuro-linguistic programming, mindset. Change how you think. And he never really did anything with it. But after we actually started doing something, and I actually put him through my own visualization practices. Okay, first of all, he teared up like crazy because it was so intense. But for the first time in his life, it's all in your head finally made sense to him because it was no longer an intellectual concept. It was now experiential. And until you make it experiential, you haven't mastered it yet. You're still cognitively thinking, oh yeah, I shouldn't be afraid of rejection, or I should be raising my prices, or I should be reaching out to more people, or I should be fine with failure, whatever. But until you actually feel it, you're not doing it right. And the big problem with the usual advice we get, from other, let's say a sales mentor, he would tell you, reach out to 100 people, get rejected, and you eventually kind of get over it. I can see you smiling. Yeah, so that's basically what people say. But there's a better way to do that because you're essentially wasting 100 good prospects just so you can learn something. You need the pain of rejection in order to learn it. You can't avoid that. You need the pain of rejection. But why do you have to call 100 people, which will take, I don't know, like, let's say an entire day, when you can just create that intense pain for like 30 minutes, overcome it, and then the first guy you call, you'll be like, you know what? I don't care if you're going to reject me, but I have the best offer possible. And no matter what you choose, first of all, I want to make sure that this is the best thing for you. And we've made fucking sure that this is the best thing for you. I don't care if you're going to reject me or not, but we just want to make sure that you get the best experience possible. Because now you're just fired up. You've embraced the fact that I'm not afraid of rejection. And boom, you close the sale. Mm-hmm. Not only are you not afraid of rejection, you actually close the sale because now you're in a better state as you're doing it. And you don't need to learn, let's say, sales techniques, because the moment you place yourself in the right state, you've already watched sales techniques somewhere. If you've ever watched television, you've probably watched someone sell. So the moment you bring that up from your subconscious mind, you don't even need to read a book on sales. You become what's called a natural. Even though it's not natural, you did it completely consciously.
Mm-hmm.
But you look like a natural. That you can end up, you can do your first online video and you look like a natural. You can hit up your first girl ever and you look like a natural. You can make your first sales call and you look like a natural. If you practice it upfront. And of course, getting to the point where you can practice everything upfront takes a lot of time, which is why I do have the balance between, yes, practice the mental parts, but also, do it in the physical reality. So let's say do a powerful meditation to get yourself in state, then call a client. Okay, do it again, call a client, do it again, call a client. So you can start to see that there's a difference every single time you go internally and fix the problems from the inside and not from the outside. And then as you get the motivation because you see the external results, not just the internal, now you actually keep doing it until you realize that what happens in the external environment doesn't even matter at one point. You realize that it's all in your head, like we've always been said, like we've always been told.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Awesome. And what did you say your background was? What did you what did you go to school for?
Regular school was just learning languages. Here in Bulgaria, it's language is probably the best thing you can learn.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in a small country. But then when I went to university, I studied applied physics because I've always been asking those questions. How does the universe work? What is the purpose of life? What's the meaning of everything? And I reckon physics gives the best answer to that because it's pretty straightforward. There's just formulas. They're not very easy sometimes, but it's formulas. You learn them and you understand how the world works. Until you get down to quantum physics, where you start to see phenomena where people's minds change the way the smallest particles of life work, or the smallest particles of matter, sorry. So when you get to the point where you realize that our mind can change how the external world works, now you realize, wait a minute, if I want to understand the world, I have to understand this. And that's how I became what I am now.
Mm-hmm. Awesome stuff. Quantum physics is definitely it's one of those places. It's a realm. I guess the core thing becomes how do you stay, because when you really I guess the question is when you really get into quantum physics and you realize like most of the things you think are the case and the way you think things work, they don't actually work that way. They work totally different. How do you stay along that train of thinking though? Because I realize even for myself, I know those are topics that I've kind of studied and I've gone deep into. But then after staying away from it, it's almost like I revert back into the way that I think things work and they really don't. It's almost like I have to keep pulling myself back into those realms. So how does someone stay on that train? Is that something you found for yourself as well too, where it's like you kind of know this is how it is, but then you revert back and back and forth? How does that work for you?
What you're referring to is the fact that, okay, you're looking into quantum physics for answers, but you're looking into quantum physics and you're understanding it only intellectually. So you read about it and you're like, you know what, this is interesting. This makes sense. I do believe that this is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
But unless you actually experience what it feels like for you to be entangled with something else, your subconscious mind has not embodied it yet. And how can you experience being entangled with something? Well, this kind of happened to me a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a meditation. The type of meditation was I was trying to break habits. That's the type of meditation I like to do. That allows you to just pre-program a specific behavior, so that the moment that behavior comes, so you're not just reminding yourself to do a specific thing, but you're actually programming your behavior so that the specific thing becomes your automatic reaction. So that's a very powerful meditation that you can do. So I was doing that, and at the end of the meditation, I had this incredible experience because that means I was doing it right. When you have a very powerful emotional experience at the end, that means you actually change something deep in your subconscious mind. And when I did that, I just had this image flash by my supervisor, for my old job, because at the time I was working just customer service, before I got more into the business side. And I was actually doing that meditation right before starting work. So then when I started work, she just called me and said, I'm here at the office, I was actually thinking about you, this and that. And because I had read about quantum entanglement and telepathy and how we can kind of connect with other people, to her, it was just a coincidence. To me, it was not a coincidence. I consciously knew that it is possible for people to connect on a telepathic level. And then when I experienced it, I realized this is exactly what happened. The only problem is that I'm still not able to do it on command. It kind of happens randomly. But once you've experienced it at least a few times, you realize everything I've read about quantum physics, it's true, but you have to experience it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to read about it. It's a whole other thing to actually experience it.
Yeah, I remember one of my one of the coaches I work with on the quantum type of level as well too. That's the one thing I remember. One of the first exercises she had me do was like, "Hey, manifest some cookies." I was like, "What?" Like manifest some cookies, and it was so interesting because I kind of like almost got into the state of saying, "Okay, this has just happened," and then I let it go. And it was so, and when I did that exercise, it was so funny because it was like, I used to live in California. I spent a lot of my time in California, and at Walmart, there's these cookies, and everyone who's been to Walmart, they've most likely seen these cookies, but they're on the front, typically on the front of the store. It's like 99 cents, like 3 in this brown bag. And I just love these, especially the oatmeal raisin ones. And I hadn't had those for like years, right? And I did, when she said, I was like, just try, let me just try that just to see. And I did that, and nothing happened immediately. But about maybe 2 weeks later, this person just randomly brought cookies. I was like, and I looked up, and they were the same exact ones. So it's like, I haven't had these things in years, and how, like, what just happened there? But it was just like such an interesting experience when you like consciously see it, but then you start actually like being deliberate about it. It's like one of the most fascinating things, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly happy that you brought that up, because that's a very good teaching point right there. A lot of people recommend that you start with something small, like manifest cookies, for example, because, if we're going to be talking quantum, okay, let's talk real quantum, real physics. Let's say an event, manifesting cookies. There are, let's say, 1,000 factors that influence whether or not you're going to manifest cookies. And your attention is one of those factors. If the other 999 were aligned, and you just had this brief thought of, what if I can manifest cookies? And it wasn't that strong, but it was strong enough, the event happens. But let's say, the usual, type yes, and you will receive $1 million in the next 24 hours. The usual post you see on Facebook. Why does that not work? Because to get $1 million, you have 1 million factors that have to come together. And you typing yes is like 0.1 compared to all of those million factors. And you're like, why am I not waking up with $1 million? I'm giving both extreme examples, just to prove the point. But understanding that your attention is one of the factors. Yes, you can, let's say, take action, physical action, go somewhere and buy cookies. Or you can just try to manifest, and then someone suddenly decides, I'm going to bring you cookies. And you have to make the conscious decision, which of these options is easier. Let's say you want to be Jesus Christ and you want to turn water into wine. Okay, if you just want to have a bottle of wine, it'd be more effective to just go and buy one.
Yeah.
Than having to spend like years learning all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But technically, theoretically, if you can create enough energy mentally, you can potentially do whatever you want just by thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, no one's really done that, at least in recorded history, to prove it. But hey, law of attraction works. Might as well use it.
Fine. Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. So, what do you see as the core thing you want your clients, individuals you work with? What's that core thing that that vision that you have for them?
My vision is that they learn not only the tools as to how to change their mind, but but they also understand the actual principles that go along with them. Because when you get to a specific point, you realize that nobody can mentor you at that point. Because when I started my business, I realized that it's very hard for someone to be mentoring me, because I have such a wide perspective on things at this point that someone who has a narrower perspective, even if they're more specialized in a certain field, for example, I can't comprehend them, because I keep asking questions like, what about this and this and this and this and this? And even though that's very good for me, because that helps me to understand everything, but it kind of limits the ability to have a mentor. But what I was trying to say is that once you truly learn how to operate from your intuitive guidance system, which is part of the whole meditation and law of attraction process, once you truly learn how to operate from the inside out, you no longer can be directed by other people. And, like it or not, I mean, I'm a coach and I'm literally telling people that the best people don't need coaches. But if you truly look at the people who are now changing the face of society, like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs, I can put on a lot of names. They didn't have someone telling them what to do. And talking about that, COVID was actually a great example of how that happens. For the first time in recorded history, you couldn't read a book about how to survive the pandemic. There was no manual about it. And only the people who knew how to adapt, whether or not they consciously understand how they adapt is an entirely different question. But only the people who knew how to follow the internal guidance system and truly solve problems, they were the people who were able to survive and write the books that now people are following on how to go through COVID. And that is happening all throughout history. It's always happened that way. The person who can truly create from the inside out, create something new, and then teaches it to people. That's how progress is made. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm kind of a coach, and I'm literally telling people that, hey, you have to follow your internal guidance system. But that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah, different people can help you open it up and learn to use it. But at the end of the day, you can potentially go to a place where you don't need anyone. Mm-hmm. In both a good and a bad sense, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. So the question now becomes, what does how does working with you look? What did you say? It's like a 5-week program or something?
Yeah, it's a 5-week program. We have weekly calls, 1-hour calls where we explain the element of the given week, because each and every week is divided into the specific elements that we want to work on. They also come with worksheets and things that you can print out, look at them, just to have the visual aspects on them. Of course, I direct it to other material depending on the specific needs. In those 1-hour sessions, first of all, I put you through actual visualization exercises, just so you can do it with me, because I know how to guide you at that point. And we talk about the actual thing that we're going through the week. And we talk about the specific issues for the specific person, because they can be different. Putting people through the same program has its limits. So we have to see what aspects are lacking. I've just designed the program because 99% of people can benefit the most from that way of structuring it. So we have the weekly calls. Throughout the week, we keep in touch on Messenger or WhatsApp or any other platform you would like. And yeah, I give the worksheets. We have the 1-hour calls. Yeah, and that's about it for the actual coaching program.
Yeah. So what about the end result, right? What results does someone get when they decide to maybe say join your program? What does that look like?
The results you get, they sound a little vague, because technically you can potentially build whatever you want. Let's say you hire a web developer and you tell them, build me a website. They can technically build you whatever website depending on your custom needs. So that's my strength, that tell me what you want and I can give you what you need. But what you essentially get is you get the focus, and now to the point where your goals are the only thing that matters. Not just because you're motivated. You literally lose the emotional incentive to do anything else, because it's all about having that internal emotional incentive. And so when you have the focus, you also have the passion, you have the fulfillment, because now you're working towards something that you truly care about and you're happy about it. And because you're so passionate, you're actually operating from your maximum productivity, because it's not just about what you do, it's about how you do it. You know, the energy you put into a conversation, into a sales call, into your art, into your creative work, that changes how much you can actually produce in a good way. And at the end of the day, it gives you the opportunity to just decide, what kind of person do I want to be? You can, excuse me, you overcome past emotional traumas that are actually blocking you from operating at your full potential. You're breaking negative habits that are blocking you. You're healing physical issues, because the mind and the body are related, and the mind can heal the body, and of course the other way around. So actually, one of my guys, he had, when we actually hopped on the call with him, actually the first free call, we talked. I gave him some exercises, and in 3 days, his lifelong breathing issues, back pain and knee pain were gone. Lifelong. Because he was at the stage where he was ready to actually make that shift. So yeah, it kind of sounds like this can do anything, but you know, we do say that mindset is everything, right? So if you know how to create whatever mindset you want, well, technically you can do anything.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Good stuff. And if someone was listening in right now and they were like, man, this is some pretty cool stuff, everything Nikolay, he just shared with me here, I'd love to learn a bit more. What's the best way for them to be able to reach out and connect?
My website will be up in a few days. It's still under maintenance because we're making a few updates. So my website is evolution-consciousness.com. If it's under maintenance right now, please return in a few days. We're just getting it up because we have a few updates to do. I will be working more on my YouTube channel, which is just Evolution Consciousness. I have maybe YouTube won't show it up because it has a few subscribers, but please search, it will hopefully come up. If you can just link my Facebook profile, that can also be a good place to find me because I'm primarily active on Facebook. I don't know if I shared my LinkedIn profile. If not, I can share it. That's about it. That's where you can find me.
Yeah, awesome. And guys, if you're watching this interview on the live or the replay, number one, all the links that Nikolay just shared with us here today, they will either be right above or below this video, so you can click and get connected right to him. Well, in that case, Nikolay, hey, thank you so much, man, for being here and sharing with myself and the rest of the community. What is it that you do? Do you have any final thoughts before we end?
Just thank you for having me on, Estes. It's been a pleasure. Hope to stay in touch.
Awesome. Thanks, man. We'll talk soon, okay?
Yeah.